There's just so much maritime history in Norfolk. So I started to do a book. It got bigger and bigger, and in the end it had to be 2 books. There's part 1, which is all about the Wash ports, King's Lynn, the North Norfolk ports. And there's the story of Great Yarmouth and Gorleston and Southtown. Well, I just couldn't get that into part 1, there was too much of it. So we had to have a part 2. Just here is the Lydia Eva, which is the last of the steam drifters. In fact, the last drifter from Yarmouth. Before the steam drifters came along, of course, there were sailing drifters. Little vessels, 3-masted originally, 2-masted later, going right back into the 1700s and further. There was herring in Yarmouth for centuries. It was more than just a fishing industry, it was a way of life in Yarmouth. There were trawling smacks working from the quay down here. Just there behind me there was a big setup with a dry dock and sailmakers' lofts and everything. The Short Blue Fleet, as it was called, Hewitts, came here in the 1850s from Barking on the Thames. Well, here we are on the gun deck of the Victory, or at least in a mock-up of the gun deck of the Victory in the Nelson Museum on Yarmouth's South Quay. Nelson knew Yarmouth pretty well. He came here when he was commanding the Albemarle. Later on he came to Yarmouth, of course, after his victory at the Nile. When Nelson landed at Yarmouth after the Battle of Copenhagen in 1801, he ignored all the dignitaries waiting for him in the marketplace and the volunteers all lined up to salute him, and he trudged off across the Denes to the naval hospital to visit his wounded crews. There was a big subscription in Norfolk to build the Nelson Monument here on the Denes. That was before the one in London. Here we are in the Thyme and Tide Museum. It was built as the tar curing works, where the herring were brought for turning into kippers and bloaters. There's an atmosphere in here. You can still smell the herring. We used quite a lot from this museum, pictures, photographs and exhibits. They're all in the book. It's a wonderful place to come and visit. There's quite a lot in the book about the 2 world wars and what went on here in the First World War when Yarmouth was bombarded by the German fleet, and about the Second World War with the motor torpedo boats and motor gunboats and motor launchers. Nowadays, of course, there's still a lot goes on in the port of Yarmouth. There's ships carrying supplies out to the oil rigs and other vessels erecting the wind farms. There's quite a lot about that. That makes up the last chapter in the book.